I'm Anna.
I'm Fran.
And this is Murder Words. Okay, so this is our first episode, obviously, and we have the best story ever. I actually don't know all the details, so I'm going to be learning with you guys.
All right, today we are going to talk about the Sodder family. This story is local. It happened in Fayetteville, West Virginia, and it is still unsolved to this day.
Ooh. Starting out strong with an unsolved murder.
And to make it even sadder, it started on Christmas Eve.
Oh.
Like the worst, right?
Depressing.
It's
already.
very depressing. So, on December 12th, 1945. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the family. So, the dad's name was George Sodder, and the mom's name was Jenny. And they had, in together, 10 children.
What?
Yeah, I know. She was busy.
That is my worst nightmare.
Yeah, she was busy. So, George Sodder was born in Italy in 1895. He is, what I would say, the true American success story. Everything started out really well for them in life. Like, he came to America, he went through Ellis Island and got cleared, and then he ended up going to work in Pennsylvania. From Pennsylvania, he took menial jobs because he was an immigrant. That's really all he could get at that time. And eventually, he moved towards West Virginia, where he started working in the coal mines. So, in the coal mines, he got a lot of respect, he got a lot of experience, and he ended up opening his own business up.
Wow.
Impressive, right? American dream. Sounds good, right? It sounds like it's going to end happily.
Yes.
It does not.
It's not.
It does not.
Wonderful.
So he actually worked his way up where he was actually considered middle class, and he was very respected in the community. So one day, while he's operating his business, he's getting his feet on going, he meets his wife, Jenny, at a store called the Music Box, where she was working at. She was also an Italian immigrant, and they instantly fell in love. It sounds happy, right?
Very happy, and also going to Fayetteville now, I do not see Italian immigrants.
We're getting to that.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we're going to get to that. Okay, so Jenny and George fell in love, and from 1923 to 1943, 20 years, they had 10 children.
I have no words for that.
That is insane to me. Like, she could not get a break.
I have 0 children. So, I have one half of children.
One half. I know. I have 1 2-year-old. I'm done. I'm good with it. And 2 dogs and 2 cats. We're good. We have enough dependents. Not 10 in 20 years. She was like 40 when she popped out her last one. Can you even imagine?
No, I cannot.
Okay. So, the reason that George and Jenny settled in Fayetteville is because there was already a large Italian community in that area. Most Italian immigrants had fled to West Virginia because they wanted to avoid the sulfur mines of the surrounding states. I guess they viewed sulfur worse than working in a coal mine. I don't know, the research wasn't out yet, but that's why they fled here.
Okay.
So
this state blows my mind.
I know. It gets a little worse. So, fun fact, there's still Italian festivals that happen every year in the state. A lot of it originated in like the Clarksburg Fairmont area, and it's also the reason we have pepperoni rolls.
Interesting.
Yes. So
I was wondering what the deal with pepperoni rolls is here.
Okay.
Everyone's obsessed with them.
So Italian immigrants, when they would go to the coal mines, they would bring bread and a stick of pepperoni to take with them. And eventually they started putting them together, and then they just caught on.
I swear when I moved here, it was immediately like, here, do you want a pepperoni roll?
Yeah, it just caught on. That's exactly how it started. The Italian immigrants coming in and working
That is very interesting.
coal mines. Yes, it is. So, George was not the most popular guy in town. He was very respected, but he was not that popular. The real big reason is that he had very strong opinions against Mussolini, who was the dictator or totalitarian. I don't know how to say that. Whatever. He was a bad guy.
I don't know either.
He was a bad guy over in Italy. He was running the country. And he had a problem with expressing his opinions very loudly around the Italian community, who still had very much loyalty to Italy. Okay? So, he was like that weird neighbor that everyone gossiped about. Like,
Yes.
yeah, he was that weird neighbor. So, Mussolini, and I understand why he did not care for Mussolini. He is the person who inspired Hitler.
Yeah, he
So-
worked with him, didn't he?
Yeah, they were like friends and stuff. So I like George. George, so far, I really like him, and you keep liking him throughout the story.
We like a good, strong
He
personality.
is, listen, he is like hard. He's like the American picture. He's a strong dad, and he loved his kids. And I'll tell you why as you go through here. You will be. No, it's sad. It might sound old, but it's really sad. Okay, so Mussolini, he was executed in 1944, and the Italian community in that area was really sad about that. They were upset that their leader had been executed, and George did not mind rubbing it in, basically. So, some weird things started happening.
I'm feeling George.
George is cool. You're really like George. When you get to the end of this, you're gonna love George. Like
I already love him.
I know. I want to hug him, but I can't. Like you really want to hug him, but also listen to him for wisdom at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, so one day, there were rumors that, of course, the Italian mafia and all that. So there was like little groups of that in the Fayette County area. So one day, this random salesman comes to his house, and he's trying to get work for him, trying to say something to him, but it ends up turning into a heated match. And the salesman says to George, quote, "Your house will go up in smoke, and your children are going to be destroyed." End quote.
Excuse me?
Because of how he bashed Mussolini. Swear.
No thanks.
No. So, George dismisses it. I would not have, but George dismisses it until later. So, the night of the fire. On Christmas Eve that year, the kids were all hyped up, excited, eating sugar, ready to go for Christmas Day. Just a normal, happy evening with their family. The kids were so excited that they actually asked their mom if they could stay up a little bit later that night. The mom agreed, but only if the kids went out and did their outside chores before they went to bed and closed the curtains and turned off the lights.
What an angel.
I know.
This family sounds so pure.
I know. So, Mom goes to bed, and at 12:30, she hears the phone ring.
Midnight a.m.?
12:30, Christmas Eve, so it's Christmas technically. So, the mom, Jenny, goes to answer the phone, okay? And a woman is on the other line asking for someone who she doesn't know, okay? And in the background, she can hear glasses clinking, and the woman abruptly hangs up on her after doing this, what Jenny said was a random weird laugh.
That is the creepiest shit I've ever heard.
So, turned it off, okay?
Sorry, Santa.
I know.
I'm out of here.
I know. And then I'm kind of on her side where I'm like, oh, well, I have a creepy laugh. You know what I mean? Like, my laugh would probably be considered creepy. It's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to talk
Wait
about
till you guys hear Fran's laugh when she snorts.
Stop it. So I'm suppressing my laughter right now so no one hears it. All right. So, Jenny heads back up to bed. After the woman hangs up, she heads back to bed. But she notices that the lights are still on and the curtains are not drawn like she'd asked the children to do. I'm kind of surprised at, like, the standard of living for children, or standards for children at that time, because, like, I know I wouldn't notice if, like, they forgot to draw the curtains. You know what I mean? Like, that was something that she instantly noticed. I don't know.
Did they do it every night? Was it like a nightly thing?
They did it every night if they went to bed before the parents did. They were responsible for doing that. But she noticed. She's like, my disobedient children did not draw the curtains.
Yeah.
So, one of the children, Marion, was asleep on the couch, she noticed, but none of the other kids were present. She just assumed that they had went to the attic and went to bed.
Attic?
Listen, when you have 10 kids, some of them are going into the attic. Like,
kids are just everywhere. Marianne is just on the couch.
Marianne's on the couch. Marianne's on the couch. There was literally like, what it looked like there was 5 kids in the attic just up there.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. It was a different time, man. All right. So, at 1 a.m., Jenny is awoke to the sound of an object hitting the roof of the house. She said it
Santa.
sounded... So it was a big bang and then a roll, she said. She figured it was nothing. Most likely she was probably annoyed that the woman had called her and, the curtains weren't drawn. And she just goes back to bed. She's annoyed at this point, so she just goes back to bed.
I mean, I feel like I would probably go back to bed too.
I would too. I'd be very annoyed by it all.
Yeah.
So, she eventually smells smoke and investigates to find George's office on fire near the fuse box coming from the telephone line. She immediately wakes up George and they scatter trying to gather all the children. They were in different rooms throughout the house. 5 kids were in the attic. 4 of them were in 2 different bedrooms around the house. And Sylvia, who was the youngest child, she was 2 at the time, she was sleeping with the parents at that time. So, they scatter. 9 out of the 10 kids were there that night. The oldest, named John, he was actually out in the military, like World War II was going on, so he was in the military. Like I'm saying, she had kids ranging from like 25 to 2. So through the panic, they get outside, and George starts taking inventory of his family.
Yes.
So
he would have to.
So he notices that 2-year-old Sylvia, 17-year-old Marion, 23-year-old John, and 16-year-old George Jr., which I don't know why he decided in the middle to name a kid Jr., but he did. And then they were all present. They were safe, they were present. But all the kids in the attic that were aged from 7 to 14 were still inside.
Man.
Yes. Their names were Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty.
Betty.
I know. Like, heartbreaking, right? So.
Oh my gosh, that is so sad.
Yes. So George assumes that they're still in the attic because there was a stairway up to that way, so he just assumes they're still stuck in there. Weird thing is, he hears no screaming. He hears nothing from the attic at all. So, George attempts to try to get to the attic from the outside. And this gets really sad because this man is trying his hardest and it just isn't working for him. So, George goes back to the house where he knows he keeps the ladder at. Ladder's missing. It was there that day and it's missing now.
Is it the salesman?
So, it's missing. So then he's like, oh my God, I'm going to go run to my trucks and pull up the trucks and see if I can get to the window with pulling the trucks up. He's got 2 trucks. Guess what?
The trucks were gone.
Trucks won't start. Neither one of them will start. Yep. There was some rumor, though, that there was a theory, though, that he was in such a panic that he could have flooded the engines. But there's a lot of coincidences going on in the story.
Yeah.
That almost seem too unreal for everything. And we'll get to all that. But there's like so many coincidences to explain things that are really messed up in it. So, then he tries to scoop water from a rain barrel.
Oh my gosh.
It's frozen.
George.
It's frozen. He can't get there. He can't bust through the ice. He then tries to climb up the side of the house, just by the railing.
This is breaking my heart.
Yeah. He tries to climb up through the railing, and from there, he actually gets to the window in the attic, but he cuts his arm and falls. So, his daughter Marion runs to the neighbor's house to call for the fire department, which I'm assuming is like a mile away, probably. Knowing Fayetteville, it's probably a mile away.
It's probably it's still like that.
It's probably up a mountain both ways.
Yeah.
But she calls the fire department and there's no response at all. Eventually, a neighbor sees the flames and runs to the local bar to look for the fire chief, F.J. Morin. I think it's kind of weird that they just assumed that the fire chief was going to be at the bar that night. Like, that's just where they instantly go.
Yes,
to get
I
the
was
fire- to
wondering
get the
that.
fire
Like, they
chief.
went there
That
to...
was exactly it. Where's the fire chief? He's at the bar. That's it. Okay. So, Lawrence decides he's going to start doing what they called, like, the phone tree system. Because that's all they really had. They didn't have, like, massive text chats. You know what I mean? They did a phone tree. Well, one person calls, is responsible for calling the next person, and so that everyone can become aware of it. So, no one answers. He can't get anybody to answer the phone for him. It took 8 hours for them to respond to the fire.
What?
The fire was only the house was only 2.5 miles from the fire station. It took them 8 hours. They didn't get
What
there.
were they doing?
They didn't get there till 8 a.m. So, the chief claimed after the fire that he could not drive the truck.
He was drunk.
You know what? I'm going to say I'd rather risk the DUI. Just saying.
Yeah.
Than, 5 children burning alive. Maybe. We don't know. Possibly. But yeah, that's what he... Fire chief. Yep.
Is he the only staff member that
No.
can drive the truck?
I don't know. Not according to that. They said they were also understaffed because of the war. I still don't buy it. Honestly, that seems ridiculous to me. But, so, fire went on for 8 hours. By the time they got there was nothing but smoldering ash. They had to sit there and watch
Oh
their
my
entire
gosh.
house burn down. So, the Sodder family just assumes that their children are dead.
Yeah.
First answer, like, we've lost our children. The fire chief claims that they searched the ground, and they claim that all the bones burned up in the fire. That there was absolutely no trace of the family whatsoever.
Can bones burn up in fires?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
So, the Sodders are trapped with their grief. It's actually so bad that George and Jenny were not able to attend the funerals of their own children because they were so ate up with grief.
Oh my gosh.
The other children did attend, but the parents could not.
Can you imagine?
No, I cannot. Like, all their younger children do. That's insane. So, after the funeral, the Sodders start putting together some pieces. And we're going to talk about some of the strange things that happened leading up to it. So, George also, before the fires, talked about a stranger coming to the house. There was no real reason for him to come there. He just walked up to the house one day and was just talking to him about his trying to get work to work on his electric. But George had already contacted the electrical company to come out and do an inspection on his property for his electrics. And the guy told George, quote, "This is going to cause a fire one day," when he was pointing at his fuse boxes. And George thought that was weird because the electrician company had just been out.
That's creepy.
Yeah, he caught the guy staring at his fuse boxes, and then he made up some kind of story about we wanted a job there. Okay?
He didn't know who it was?
He didn't know who it was. Some random guy. The older Sodder children, before the fire, mentioned a strange person just before Christmas, intently watching the younger kids as they came home from school. So I guess where the house was, it was kind of like, not what we consider an interstate today, but it was just like a little bit more of a frequently traveled road. The ladder was eventually found at the bottom of an embankment, 75 feet away from the house.
What?
It had been there the previous day, and it was 75 feet away. Suspicious.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Okay, so the fire marshals determined that the fire was caused by an electrical issue. But here's the real kicker with that. The Christmas lights are still on while the house is burning.
How is this? Like, I know back then, like, they didn't have DNA. They didn't, like, I mean, but, like...
The Christmas lights were still on.
Why did they think it was acceptable to say things that are stupid?
I don't know. I mean, it really makes West Virginia law enforcement look bad. Like, back in the day, everything's like homegrown. You're going to get even
8
more.
hours? Like, I'm still stuck on the 8 hours.
I know, you could have walked there. You know what I mean? Like, you could have walked there with buckets of water quicker. But, next thing was, the telephone company came and checked out the line for the telephone. Okay? Turns out it wasn't burned. It was cut. Someone had cut the line. And it wasn't just, randomly laying around cut. It was up on a giant pole. Someone had to purposely climb up.
They went through a lot of work to do this.
Mm-hmm. So, next thing is, a man gets arrested after neighbors tell the police that they had seen the man stealing block and tackle from the Sodder property around the time of the fire. So, the police take him in, question him, and they remove him as a suspect. He does admit to taking the block and tackle, but not to cutting the phone lines. I don't know, that's too weird for me.
How did they...
There was 2 crimes being committed at once, and they didn't even see each other. And then there was that strange phone call. You know what I mean? Like, all these different coincidences that are happening on the same night.
There's no such thing.
I know, right? So, here's another thing. The bones were all gone. No bones at all were found. They did not believe that the bones would burn. So Jenny actually went out and found animal bones and burned them for long periods of time, trying to get them to smolder. Yes, they never did. She contacted a local crematorium employee and asked her about this. So the crematorium employee did experiments of her own. What she did was she took bones that she had and she stuck it into their crematorium and watched it burn. And she said after it was at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and after 2 hours, the bones were still intact. And that was way hotter than the house fire would have been. So there's too many bad luck scenarios.
Someone took the kids.
So that's where we're getting at with it. That's the theory, is that someone took the kids instead of them dying in the fire. And so they say that they don't really know why, but so the woman on the phone, the stranger woman on the phone, she was tracked down, and she confirmed that she had dialed the wrong number. These police just believe whatever people say. If you can't tell, that's just like
why I just dialed the wrong number and decided to laugh
really loud
and creepily.
No
big deal.
And I mean, like, I imagine it was probably harder to make a phone call than it was nowadays. You know what I mean? Like, they had to, like, boop, boop, boop. And then, like, I think there was, like, even those people that had, like, the little lines that they had to plug in. Like, how do you mistake a number?
Lines, wow. Or, like,
you know
the circle.
Yeah. The little, like, you have to do that.
Such millennials.
Okay, so, police determined that she had no involvement with the fire. So, later in the spring...
How did they determine that?
They
were like, you know what?
Listen, here's how bad it is. They don't even have the guy's name anymore, who they arrested over the stealing the tackle gear. That name's been lost somewhere. It's nowhere to be found. So, I'm telling you, like, grade A, man. Grade A.
Wow.
I mean, I feel like they had notebook and paper. They could have wrote something down. You know
yeah.
What I mean? Okay, so later the following year, after the fire in the springtime, a local bus driver came forward with new information. He claimed to see a ball of fire being thrown at the house the night of the fire.
That's what she
Against
heard?
The house, yes. Confirmed that happened. After that, 3-year-old Sylvia found a hard, dark, green rubber ball-like object in a bush near where the house was. After all this, they're still fighting to find their kids, and people start spotting the kids out in the public.
What?
Yep. One woman claimed to see a man watching the fire with kids in the back of the car the night of the fire.
What? She didn't bring this up till a year later?
She didn't bring this up until a little bit later. A woman in Charleston was at a rest stop as a waitress. Because I guess they had diners at the rest stop. You know what I mean? They treated people who traveled good then, I guess. We just get vending machines and some 50-cent coffee. But she claimed to have seen the kids eat breakfast, and they had left in a car with Florida plates. There was another woman who claimed she was working at a hotel in Charleston, and about a week after the fire, and they were with two Italian woman and an Italian man. The children were there, and she tried to talk to the children because they looked upset, and the woman screamed at her to stop talking to the kids.
What? So do they like call police immediately? Like here they are?
Oh no, they wait a little bit and then they do it. So these are all just claims. I want to say that they're all just claims. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But they were investigated. So the Sodders are tired of the police's crap, and I understand why. Especially that fire chief. I don't know. So they hire a private investigator, C.C. Tinsley, which I don't know why that name. So he looks into the fire. Okay. What he finds out is, so when an accident happens, they have to determine if there was foul play or if it was an accident. So they had a jury system with it. Like the coroner's office had a jury system with it, determine if it was. I don't know why. I don't know if it's different or how they did it, but there was a jury trial, and the private detective finds out that the salesman who had threatened them, saying that their house was going to burn, the children were going to be destroyed, was on the jury.
What?
Swear. He was part of the jury that confirmed that there was no foul play in the fire.
I'm gonna throw myself out this window
I
right
know,
now.
right? Right. Okay.
Did they like immediately bring him in for questioning? Did they?
Oh, no, that just got swept under the rug. He never got questioned. So, another rumor emerges. Okay. This is what the private investigator finds out. And Fire Chief Morris, the rumor was Fire Chief Morris had found a heart in the ashes that he put in a metal box and buried at the scene. I know.
Who says? Who?
Oh, he starts things like
What's
that?
happening?
He starts things like it was true.
Stop it.
Swear.
They found a heart.
Here, hold on. So,
That's the one thing that you said that I'm like, that's not true.
So apparently the fire chief confessed to his minister, and the minister told George. He like broke off confidentiality because he was like, "Oh my god, like what is happening?"
Yeah.
Like he's like, "I can't live with myself." I don't know. I wasn't him, so I assume that's what it went down to. So Morris confirms the rumor and takes them to the spot where he buried the box. Turns out it wasn't a heart. It was beef liver. He buried a box of beef liver, and he claims that he was hoping that the Sodder family would find it and accept that the kids had died. In a box.
Oh, he did it on purpose.
He did it on purpose, thinking that the Sodder family would find it and think that the kids were dead. Which I still don't understand why he put a box in it. Like, why would you just think, like, oh, no foul play, this
Did
box...
he make this decision intoxicated
Probably
at the bar?
Probably at the bar he made this decision. Like, you know what would be great? If I just got some beef liver, real quick, put it in a metal box, ran out to the crime scene.
And this is really going to help this family.
This is going to help
This
them
is going to
feel-
help them move on.
They're just going to think that the heart fell into the box as the body collapsed. Like, they're going to be fine with that.
Yeah, that's going to be the closure they
That's
need.
the closure they need.
Morris.
Thinking that their children suffered and got their heart put in a box. So, things settled down for a little bit. 5 years later, I guess the fire chief wasn't fired at any point. The one that made false creepy evidence up and is known at the bars as the best place to reach him. He's still not fired. And George goes to him seeking to reopen the investigation.
Oh, they closed it?
Yeah, they closed it after that jury. They closed everything. They didn't want to hear it anymore. And it gets worse. So, George takes matters into his own hands. He travels in person to all these leads across the United States. Any lead that he has, he goes to it. I know. Okay? So George, one time, saw a girl in a New York magazine who was a ballet dancer. He drove there and demanded to see the girl, thinking it was his daughter. He went to the school and just kept asking and asking, demanding to see the girl. He was refused. I understand why.
Yeah. Oh my god, that is so sad.
So, George then tried reaching out to the FBI. The FBI were willing to take a look at the case. They thought there was enough evidence to try to look in the case. Even the possibility of across state lines kidnapping, so they could have jurisdiction. Well, Unfortunately, the FBI has to be invited into a case.
They wouldn't invite them in.
They refused.
Why?
They did
Why
not
did they
accept-
not want to?
They didn't
Did
want to
the
accept
fire
the help.
chief do this?
No, I imagine so. This
I
fire
feel like
chief,
there's
man,
so many possibilities right now.
The fire chief's name keeps getting mixed into all this. So, they were willing to take it, and the local sheriff's office refused to take it, refused to accept the case in. Didn't receive the help. You know what I was kind of thinking? It was probably because they were doing all kinds of, even if it wasn't involved with the fire, they were probably doing all kinds of messed up things like moonshining and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all that kind of crazy stuff was happening. It was West Virginia in, 1950s. Who knows what was happening there?
That's true.
So they
But
probably didn't
still.
want them messing in their business. But still, you know what I mean? So, George is still mad because he's just hitting dead ends.
I feel so bad for George.
I know. It gets worse. George decides to pay for a pathologist to do an excavation of the house, where the house used to be in the land. The pathologist finds a dictionary and several human bone fragments from a vertebrae, okay?
Like where the house was, like
Where
from the
house
fire.
was, yes, where the house was, he finds the children's dictionary. They confirm that it's theirs, and they find these vertebrae bones. So it's sent off to the bones are sent off to a specialist, and the specialist determines that the bones were most likely from a 16 to 17-year-old male. The youngest child in the house was 14.
You mean the oldest?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, the youngest child, like there was.
So that's not possible.
It's not possible, because I guess with these bones, like around age 16, they fuse together, but before that, they're separated, and these bones had already fused.
So that was just another missing child.
Yeah.
That was just.
Oh no!
Their...
I'll tell you where the bones came from. It was later found out that the bones came from a cemetery in Mount Hope.
Why were they there? Was it on a cemetery? How would they know that?
They figured it out somehow. I don't know.
That they can figure out, but they can't figure out how to get there before 8 hours?
Okay, so they were determined. So they found out that they were from Mount Hope, and here's the kicker: they had never been exposed to flames.
Someone put them there to make him think that was the fire chief, probably along with the livers.
Scattered them right around, beef liver and
I can't.
Random bones. So, Sodder family still not giving up the children. They're even more motivated now. They put up a $10,000 reward for information for even just at least
Dude,
even
that's
one
a lot
child.
of money back then. I mean, that's a lot of money now, but
I looked it up and it was over $100,000 of his own money that he put up for just information for one child. So in 1952, after the fire and after they put up the reward money, they put out a billboard. And the billboard ends up becoming like a attraction for West Virginia. It had a picture of every child's face and information about who they were, year they were born, and how to contact the family if they see their children. It was a huge billboard, and they put it right over where the fire was. It was sad. So, after the billboard got up, more leads came in. There were rumors that the children were in a convent, just stashed away somewhere. Rumors that they were in Florida with a relative of Jenny's. So, George actually drove down to his relative's house and demanded to see the children that had been in question, and would not leave until she produced birth certificates for them.
did she?
Yeah, it was all cleared up. It wasn't them. Another rumor popped up that a man in a tavern, I think it was Florida, or maybe Kentucky. No, Kentucky. I'm sorry. A man in Kentucky in a tavern claimed to be Lewis, which was one of the sons that were missing. George went in person to validate these claims. He ended up not confronting Lewis, but the person that Lewis had told this to, the bartender. And the man advocated said that he didn't say that, like they were trying to protect him or something. But George said that dead end haunted him the rest of his life.
Oh my gosh. He thinks the guy was lying.
Gets weirder, okay? In 1967, the Sodder family received mail postmarked from Kentucky. In the mail was an adult picture with who they claimed was Lewis. All grown up. And when you look at the pictures, they do look strikingly similar. Like him as a child, like they had the same like bone structure. He's a handsome kind of dude, actually, too. So it was striking, and on the back of the photo was these words: Lewis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. ILIL boys. A90132 or 35. That's it. That was what was on the back of the letter. Or back of the picture.
They
don't know what it means.
They never figured that out.
A private detective was hired again, but nothing resulted in the picture. The family thought that it was Lewis, and they actually updated their billboard with that picture of him.
Oh my gosh.
But they did not say, they just said Kentucky. They did not say the actual location in Kentucky, because they were worried that the people that had taken Lewis were going to harm him for identifying himself. I mean, we also have to consider, like, people are cruel. You know what I mean? But it also is kind of weird that, I mean, this is 10 years later.
Yeah, so how old would he have been?
His 30s. No, maybe it was 20. No, it's 20 years later. So he's in his 30s, I'm sorry. Yep. You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird thing for, I mean, they didn't have the internet where they could just look up past crimes. They had to have some kind of knowledge.
And also, you never know, like, you have Stockholm Syndrome and, like, all those things, like, they could be...
Especially as children. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of adapt at that point.
Yeah.
Especially as I was, like, I can't remember anything past 6. Or, well, 10. Okay, let's do all, like, past 10. I don't even know. So. George died in 1969, never knowing what happened to his kids.
Oh, my God.
He said all he wanted his entire life was to know for sure that they died in the fire or not know. He just wanted to know either way. Jenny kept the search going. So where the house had burned down, they built a garden. And she tended to that garden for the rest of her life. And she wore black every day for the rest of her life, mourning her children. She died in 1989.
Wow. Mm-hmm. It's the year before we were born.
It is, yes. The remaining Sodder children took down the billboard after they passed.
Why?
I don't know. I guess because all the main people had already passed at that point. You know what I mean? Anyone who could really find any answers. I don't really know. I kind of felt that was a little cruel too. Yeah. But I don't know. They kept trying to keep the case public though. In 2015, Sylvia, who was 2 when the fire happened, she went and did a TV show talking all about the case, and that she strongly feels like the children were still alive when they left the house. And then her daughter actually does like post a lot on like web sleuths and stuff like that, trying to keep the story alive. Some people believe that, you know, they did die in the fire, because there is some evidence with that. I mean, they've never found them again.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those things where, like, I wouldn't be surprised if next week they had an article come out like, oh, they're found. You know what I mean? Like, here's what the story.
Feel like they did not.
Yes,
die in the fire.
I don't feel like
that's my vibe. I'm getting.
Like they didn't either, especially because like they didn't hear screams from the attic.
Yeah.
And they never found their bones. Like. So so she tries to keep, you know, these online articles active and blog and everything like that about it, and I guess podcasts talk about it too, and they continue to try to solve this 60-year mystery.
Wow.
Yeah. There's some highs in there, and then there's some real deep lows, and a lot of weird in between, right?
Poor George.
Poor George, right? Like, Father of the Year.
Yeah. So, and we'll post the pictures from this episode on our Facebook and our Instagram. So we'll keep you guys updated. And if you want to hear a case, if you guys have any suggestions, or if you just want to reach out to us, definitely do that. We'll have an email soon too. So, yeah, we're excited you guys are listening.
Oh, we also want to hear what you guys think. Do you think that they perished in the fire, or do you think that they made it out and they were kidnapped? Let us know.
Yeah, we're always down for some theories.
Yes, we love a good theory. All right. Well, thank you for listening with us on our first episode.
Yes, make sure you like and subscribe and share it and tell your friends about it, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.